I have no idea what I just drank. That is different, and not in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like complex flavors that I haven't really had in any other whiskey before, but it's quite nice.
Welcome back to the channel. My name's Matt and I'm a bit of a whiskey nerd.
My name is Rose and I'm a whiskey noob.
And this week we're going to do a little bit of an experiment because we're going to be looking at the classic Roe and Co blend, and then we'll be looking at an experimental cask finish series they've done called the Sugi. So let me get these into the glasses and I'll tell you a bit more about them. Now, the Roe and Co classic blend, it's just a classic blend. It's a very good whiskey. They kind of designed it so it'll go well in cocktails. It's specifically kind of made so it'll go well in cocktails. It comes in at 45% alcohol by volume, so it has a nice bit of weight behind it, but it's still sweet and caramelly. But for the Sugi, they've done something a bit different. So I'll put a picture of the barrels up there so you can see what it looks like. What they've done is they've essentially taken Sugi wood and they've added staves of Sugi wood into the barrels. So because Sugi wood is very porous, it wouldn't be good for actually making a barrel. So they've just added the wood to the barrel to kind of add some flavour and see how much of an impact it had. And so that's what we'll be looking at today.
It's interesting because the colors in the bottles look really different. Like the bluish bottle makes it almost look green, which I think Sugi is like Japanese, so it reminds you of like green tea almost, but when it gets out of the bottle and into the glass, it doesn't look green at all. No. But it is a different color than their normal one.
It's a slightly lighter color. Now I think it is a higher alcohol by volume. Yeah, so it's 46%. So it is a slightly higher alcohol by volume. Probably not enough that you'd notice it.
Yeah.
But it definitely will have some different flavors in there.
Okay. I think it'll be interesting because it's a Japanese whiskey, right? Or they just use the Japanese wood?
They use the Japanese wood. So yeah, so what they've done is they've taken the barrel and then they stuck in bits of Japanese wood into it to kind of add the flavour, because they wouldn't be able to make a good barrel out of the wood. It would be just too porous and it would leak and then it wouldn't work.
Okay. I always like it when there's like some sort of Japanese element to it because we met in Japan.
Yeah.
Alright, well let's give this a go.
Yeah. So we'll start off with the regular one. Just go in, just going to give a baseline because it should be the same whiskey between them. The only difference here is it's had that Sugi wood added to it.
It smells like caramel.
Oh, very sweet, very kind of...
Ooh, there's some spices there.
A bit of spice, yeah.
Ooh, that is yummy. It's so sweet.
It is, yeah. So this is like a really good cocktail whiskey. It is one of my go-to whiskeys for cocktails because it's sweet. It's got vanilla, caramel, toffee. It kind of is a good classic whiskey flavour without being too strong in any one direction, so it wouldn't overpower a cocktail.
We need to have a segment called Dessert Whiskeys. And this would be in it. I think I've called a couple of whiskeys as potential dessert whiskeys by now.
It is a good whiskey. It's a nice, sweet, very good baseline. Like I said, it's not overpowering. It's a good cocktail mixer, and it's also good to drink on its own.
It's also a really fun bottle.
Oh yeah, it's a fun little bottle. It's got a little bit of history behind it from the old Roe and Co distillery.
Yeah. Oh, are we done with this? It's so nice.
Well, you can have a bit more.
Okay, fine. I'll finish for now. So
now, the Sugi. This should be the same whiskey. It's just had a bit of different wood added into it.
What will that do?
So apparently it added kind of green tea notes, some kind of herbal notes, kind of incense and spice, because wood does have different tastes depending on what part of the world you're in. The wood will actually have a different impact on the flavour, and so it has definitely had an impact on this whiskey.
Okay. I just want to say I did kind of call it with the matcha flavour because it looks a little green in there. I think that's on purpose. It smells completely different.
Yeah, it's like go between them.
It's still like a sweet, it's just like a different kind of sweetness, like Western sweet, Eastern sweet.
Yeah, it's got like an extra layer of kind of like a spice, sandalwood.
Yeah, less caramel.
Instead of being like apples.
Mochi.
Mochi, okay.
I know, partly because the Japanese wood and everything reminds me of more like Japanese flavors that we would have had living there. So Japanese sweets have a different type of like level of sweetness. They just taste slightly different.
Yeah, I get kind of almost tropical fruits kind of in here. Not like an apple or a pear, but something just a bit deeper, like a dragon fruit or a lychee or something.
I have no idea what I just drank. That is different, and not in a bad way. It's just like complex flavors that I haven't really had in any other whiskey before, but it's quite nice.
Yeah, like it's definitely different. It's almost a bit oilier, a bit denser it has those spices. They linger around. On the finish, it's a bit more present as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to nail down what the spices are because they're not very familiar to us because you wouldn't be really familiar with Sugi wood. It's not used in barrels.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very rare. You wouldn't actually have a whiskey made in Sugi barrels. So it's not. I'm not used to tasting these. I don't have those kind of notes in my brain already. So it is like sandalwood, incense, that kind of the smell, but as a taste. So it's hard to describe.
Would other like Japanese whiskeys have Sugi wood in it, or would they use?
No, they often use Mizunara oak.
Oh.
So it's a different type of oak. It's actually very dense. Mizunara oak is apparently very hard to work with. It's so dense. It's much denser than oak. So it's hard to work with, hard to make barrels with, and it gives less flavour to the whiskey than a standard like European oak would.
Okay. I wonder why they chose Sugi then.
I think because it's so different. It's very just kind of unique.
Yeah.
And Irish whiskey is unique in this regard because it doesn't have to be made in oak. So American whiskey, Scottish whiskey, it has to be aged in oak, whereas Irish whiskey just has to be aged in wood barrels. So a couple of distilleries, they're using cherry wood, they're using hazelnut wood, they're using loads of different types of wood to give different flavours, and that's why Roe and Co have done this.
Would you say that Irish whiskey might have more flavours than traditional American whiskey?
Definitely there's a bigger range of flavours that Irish whiskey can have because Irish whiskey, it can be pot still whiskey, so they can have different recipes, they can use different woods, so there's I think a bigger range of flavours that Irish whiskey can have than American whiskey, although American whiskey can have a lot of flavours.
Oh yeah, it'd be very interesting to have like a couple of selections of like American whiskey, Irish whiskey, Japanese whiskey, and not just like one of each, but a couple, and have like a big whiskey tasting party.
Yeah, no, I don't think you can handle that though.
Oh gosh, no.
No, she'd be drunk.
I would be on the floor.
So what we might do now is go back to the regular, right? Get used to those caramel notes, get used to those flavours, see if you can find the similarities between the two whiskies.
Okay, so similar colour. You gotta start somewhere, right?
Again, you get the toffee, the caramel, the sweetness.
The nose is way different. So the OG one is more like sweet caramel right on the nose. This one, it's like it's got an extra kick of something in there. I just keep seeing greens. I just keep wanting to say matcha. I don't think it is, but there's an extra kick of something. Maybe it's the Sugi wood.
Yeah, maybe it is definitely the Sugi wood, I'd say. Maybe think of like dried matcha powder.
Maybe.
Not matcha tea, but like that astringent, dry, that kind of,
But it's so different because green tea itself is different from matcha. Like the flavors can be different. I was just saying, I just re-drank the original there. It's a dessert whiskey. Who would say no?
Professional operation.
I am very professional. This is the Sugi.
Yes.
Okay, so. I don't know. I don't know what I'm drinking. It is way spicier.
Yeah.
This is more like liquid smooth, desserty. Yeah. This is more like spicy, but not like. It's quite smooth at the same time.
Because it's the same whiskey, so the base is the same. It's gonna have that same base of sweetness. It's just, would you use this in a cocktail?
No, God, no. This is by itself.
Definitely by itself. Whereas the standard blend is you can drink it by itself. You can also put it in cocktails pretty well.
I drink it by itself. It's lovely. What kind of cocktails would you put in?
I'd definitely put this in like a whiskey sour. Maybe not an old fashioned, but like anything where there's a bit of citrus, where there's a chance that this whiskey could be hidden by something else, because it comes in at 45%.
Okay.
It has that extra bit of weight behind it, so it does stand up to other ingredients.
Yeah.
But this is just, it's so different. It's so, just by adding a bit of extra wood, completely changed the whiskey. Alright, I think that's where we'll leave it for now. This is a very interesting little experiment. I'm glad to see them branching out, because Roe and Co, they're new, they're still kind of developing their portfolio of whiskies. I'm glad to see them experimenting into different lines, different kind of releases. It just shows what Irish whiskey is capable of, and I'm glad to see that happening. So I think I'm going to keep on enjoying this one. You're going to enjoy
both of them.
Both of them, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.